Welcome to the Ben and Walker Movie Show. I'm your co-host, Ben Davis, and I'm of course joined by my other co-host, Walker Holt, and we're excited to have a conversation with you about one of our favorite things in the world, movies and technical difficulties. Um, if this is your first time being here with us, welcome. We're very glad to have you. And while you're here, be sure to hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with all the latest content that we have for you guys, as well as leave a like because that helps us in the algorithm a lot and it helps us reach a wider audience so that we can just continue to grow this party. It would absolutely mean a lot to both Walker and I. This is our semi-weekly show for this month, at least, because we're doing 2 deep dives for you, where we break down movie news that interests us and talk about things that we've been watching. Say if it's a must see, a go see it, a rent it, or skip it. And we might play some games here at the end. Unfortunately, due to just the overwhelming amount of news that Walker and I have to discuss this week, we are going to be skipping over the game portion, which we've been doing recently. But don't worry, fret not. Don't be discouraged. We will get back to doing those. Now, with that down and out of the way, Walker, how are you doing today, sir?
I heard over half of what you said, which is amazing. No, I heard it all. You sound good now. That was. I'm good. I'm good. It's been a fun weekend. The Iron Man is being hosted in Wilmington this weekend, which is not my cup of tea. But it means there's a lot of traffic and a lot of roads closed. But my cousin did it.
Yeah.
My cousin who has talked to me about Mission Impossible 2. The guy, Andrew, I've brought him up several times on the pod.
Yeah, I saw your Instagram post about it. How do you do?
It was such an impressive feat. That's obviously not relevant in my life. I don't see that much or participate in stuff like that much. He has run a full marathon before, but he's been training a lot for this. And you do a 1.2 mile swim from kind of the south end of Wrightsville Beach through basically to the waterway to a yacht club that we have. And I think it's typically with the current, which helps out a lot, but it's still, it's a long swim. It's 7 a.m. The water's 69 degrees, which is, if you're not familiar, like an Olympic lap pool is kept
cold
around like 80 and it's pretty chilly. So 69 is cold. I think below 70, they're allowed to wear a wetsuit. So he got to wear one. And then you transition. They had this cool app that you could follow along, and like he was chipped, and you could see where he was and his times and his predictions and stuff. And his transition time was like 6 minutes, and he hopped on a bike, 56 miles on the bike, right all the way to Atkinson, a town that is annoying if you have to drive there. And back, and then you hop off, and this was the 70.3 Ironman, so you get off after the 56 miles and run a half marathon, 13.1 miles through the streets of downtown. Really unbelievable. It's quite the accomplishment. I went down there to try to support him at the finish line, and I stood at the finish line about 20 minutes before he got there, and just watching everyone finish and like the pride they had and how much work they put into it and how supportive the community was around it. I almost got like emotional watching it. It was very like a really happy, positive vibe there. And someone I care about was involved. It was really cool. If you, obviously participate if it's in your wheelhouse, but if not, I still encourage people to check it out, see the community and watch it, cheer people on, support them. It's really cool.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, like whenever I see stuff like that, I'm always thinking to myself, like, it encourages me. Like, for those of you who aren't aware, I participate in amateur bodybuilding. And it always like encourages me to be like, man, I really want to get on stage again. There's nothing better than putting your body through the ringer, and it's that grind. Like the day, like the stuff on the show, like on the stage and the show day, like it's cool. But it's the grind that I love. And then when you get to the end, that feeling of accomplishment, it's gratifying. And to see others go through that, which a triathlon's freaking ridiculous. I don't think I'd ever really do that, but so I admire people who put themselves through that because that's a lot of work, man. That is a lot of work. Congratulations to your cousin.
How's your weekend
That's a
been?
big deal. Good, man. Good. This past weekend, I was freaking busy, man. So I went to Michigan. I went to Michigan for my good friend Brendan and Emily, their wedding. I had the privilege and the honor of being a groomsman in their wedding, and it was a really fun time. Uh, I waited too long to book plane tickets, and then I had to drive from the airport that was closest to them uh, to their location like an hour anyway. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna have to rent a car. So I might as just go ahead and rent one and drive because it's only
Mm.
7.5, close to 8 hours. I can make that drive. Rained. I left. Put it in this perspective. I left at I think it was Friday morning at around 8:30, and as soon as I hit Illinois, like an hour into Illinois, the bottom fell out, didn't stop raining, rained the entire way up there. I got to Michigan at around 6:45.
It's exhausting.
6:45. Yeah, 6:45 p.m. Had the bachelor party, was up until like 2:30, and got up the next morning at 6 a.m. and tailgated at the Michigan game where they played. I think it might have been Illinois. I don't know who they played, but they killed them. Went to that game. A lot of fun. Cool atmosphere. I'm an Ohio State fan, so it was. It is what it is. Go Buckeyes, OHIO. But I had a lot of fun in that atmosphere. A lot of cool people around, and a lot of especially because I'm an Ohio State fan. And I was letting people know it. It was a lot of like fun poking and joking around with a lot of those guys. It was fun, but it rained the entire game and it got worse throughout it. Went to the rehearsal dinner that night and then had to get up and was at the wedding helping out, I think at 9:45 until 11 p.m. and then got up at 6 and had was on the road at 7 on Monday.
Wow.
Big weekend, but it
Wow.
was it was a lot of fun, man. Met a lot of really nice people. I am so happy that I got to be there for Brendan and Emily. It was a really good time, and yeah, I was exhausted when I got back. So this weekend was
Yeah.
really chill. This weekend was really chill. I didn't do too much. I went to the pumpkin patch with Zoe and Carly.
Yeah, it sounds like a big one. It sounds like a big weekend. Weddings are always fun, though. 12-hour drives in the
Yeah,
rain aren't.
yeah, man. Well, like
Mhm.
that drive's really easy. That drive is super super easy. But the rain on the way back, it was super no traffic. But on the way there, I ran into Chicago traffic on top of the rain, so it was like, oh, it's rough. But moving on here into some news, man. That's what people want to hear. They don't want to hear about my weekend. They want to hear about some movie news. Listen, we've missed a lot because last week we decided to do a deep dive because it's October, man. It's scary season. You got to do two movies, man. You got to do two deep dives. One's
Sure.
just not enough. One's not enough. But we'll start off with like a DC news rundown. All right. So there was like this huge article that dropped on Variety talking about the drama surrounding Aquaman 2 by Tatiana Siegel. But inside that article, there were a few like big nuggets of information that I found to be very interesting. Number one, the OG Justice League cast, meaning Ben Affleck, Henry Cavill, Gal Gadot, Ezra Miller, Ray Fisher, Jason Momoa, uh, that cast of characters will not return in character for the new DCU, which makes sense. And two, Jason Momoa has engaged in talks to play Lobo, which is the worst kept secret in Hollywood, in either Superman Legacy or a standalone film. Uh, Then Matthew Vaughn confirmed on the Happy, Sad, Confused podcast, which is an awesome podcast. I highly recommend it. That he's discussed directing a film in the DCU. Fingers crossed that it's The Authority. I think he would crush that. And lastly, James Gunn said the tone of the DCU will shift with each project to show the unique style from each director. So, Walker, what is your take from
First of
all
all,
this
the
news?
none of the OG Justice League cast coming back. I'm cool. I mean, I think it's tough. It's a tough,
Yep.
thing to reset. I mean, I've said before also that, yeah, and I mean, I've
Rip the
said
band-aid
some
off.
things where, if there was like a great character, I really like, John Cena's portrayal of Peacemaker. Like, there's certain things like I don't mind carrying over, but like let's start over. Let's get it. Let's start fresh. Let's go ahead and do it. I mean, make the hard decisions, and I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we might differ in opinion here. Some of them aren't that hard of a decision, personally. I don't think. I mean, I like Henry Cavill. I liked Ben Affleck. I like Jason Momoa as Aquaman. Gal Gadot can go. Ray Fisher. I mean, if it weren't for the recut of Justice League, I barely.
He was the I think
Yeah, the
one of the best
recut,
parts of that movie.
Yeah, the
The,
Snyder cut.
yeah,
But if it weren't for that, he was barely even had a place in there. He was so underused.
yeah.
So I'm on board with.
Ezra Miller. What are your thoughts on him?
Yeah,
or on them? Excuse me, on them.
they are, that they're just a mess. I mean, they have so many problems, and I mean, they just had to do it. And like, I don't know what the I liked the Flash movie, but I did not like it as much. I mean, I don't know who was on. Well, I didn't
Didn't
like it as
like it
much
as much
as
as
like the
me.
world. It felt like the world was on payroll to act like it was. I mean, people were acting like it was the best movie ever made. I mean, people were really hyping it up before the release. That means,
Well, a lot of that is also bad telephoning too, because if you look at some of the actual quotes, like everyone's saying, "Oh, James Gunn said it's one of
mm-hmm,
the greatest comic book movies ever made." It's like he didn't say that. It's one of his favorite
no,
comic book movies that he's seen.
no.
Not the best, just one of his
I
his
did like it. I did
favorites.
like it, and I liked his portrayal. And I thought he got a kind of a bad,
Yeah,
unfair shake on his portrayal when they were like, they can't find the tone of his character. I mean, I thought it was, I thought it was okay. I mean, I didn't mind it.
I th- I thought they did a great job in the role. Taking replacing the actor, or not replacing the actor, but replacing, necessarily not even replacing, but taking away all the things that they've done in their
Mm-hmm.
personal life, and just looking at the performance itself. I think they do a phenomenal job portraying the character. But if you're going to get rid of
I agree.
everyone, get rid of everyone. You just get rid of everybody. Keep in minor characters like John Cena's Peacemaker or Viola Davis as
Mm-hmm.
Amanda Waller. I mean, it's Viola
Yeah,
Davis. You're
I
not
agree.
going
I
to get
mean,
rid of
I
her.
agree with everything you're saying. I know it's not like a stable footing right now. We're still finding we're still defining Guns DCU,
Yeah.
but I'm okay. I'm on board pretty much with every decision made so far. I'll skip over the middle one for a second. The tone shifting from director to director, love it, love it. I
Yeah.
I think that's what a lot of superhero movies are missing is tying good. There's no point in hiring great directors if you're going to tie their hands and make them put out exactly what you want to put out and the tone you want to put out and everything. Let them be creative and let
Yeah.
them keep it fresh, keep it interesting. I would love. I mean, I don't want to. I guess I'm kind of been underwhelmed in the past, like when like Sam Raimi's coming to direct. What's it, Doctor Strange, and
See, I felt he had that had a lot of the Sam
yeah,
Raimi-isms
I
in it.
just
That's why
wish
I
like
liked it
sometimes
so much.
they say things like they're gonna make it more of like this is actually gonna be more of like a horror movie, and then like I don't know, maybe they just can't commit fully.
It's got horror movie
Yeah.
elements, but it's not a horror movie. It's a lot like when people say Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Oh,
Yeah.
it's a political spy thriller, and it's like,
Yeah, I
no,
mean,
it has
exactly.
shades.
It's they just don't
Yeah,
fully commit. And maybe they can't. Maybe that's not the move. Maybe it's hard to market. But I think from a creative perspective and from a good film perspective, that's one of the keys. I think that would be awesome.
yeah. Because if you pick up a Superman comic and you pick up a Batman comic, they're both very different in tone. They still fit within the same universe, but they're very different in tone. And I think James Gunn picking directors that'll fit the tone that he's looking for and will fit the project, and him just letting them roam free in terms of the tone while keeping it within the universe will help the universe feel more fresh, more diverse, and
Yeah,
not so samey. I agree with that approach. I like that he's doing that. I
yeah,
think
I like it too. I
it's
mean, because
bold.
MCU, you can take a big chunk of those. I mean, some of them stand out and they're their own projects and stuff like that. But you can take several of them
Yeah.
that are like, man, that's just all like it's just all the same movie with different characters. Like it's just like the same like cookie cutter tone and everything for a while. And I love this. I'm a big fan of giving directors a longer leash. Yeah,
Giving them
let them
autonomy
make
over
it
the
theirs.
project.
I
Yeah.
love Matthew Vaughn. I think I love what he did with what did you Kingsman and Argyle looks awesome.
Yeah, Kingsman
And
kick
Argyle looks
ass.
great, and
Yeah.
so I love to see him in the universe directing. Now, not a comic guy, so I'm not super familiar with the Authority.
I'm not either. I know who they are, and based off of who they are, they're essentially
Okay,
the boys of DC, which you're not familiar with
well
either,
that's
so that's not very helpful. It's the
okay.
Justice League but dark. They're the Justice League, but they'll go it's like Suicide Squad, but the government's official Suicide Squad. You know how like the Suicide Squad or Task Force X is like the let's not
Sure.
talk about it. It's shady. This is like the government. Everyone kind of knows about it, and they go the way that they go about justice and the way that they go about dealing justice is a bit shady. So I think
Yeah,
Matthew Vaughn would
that
have some
sounds
fun
great.
with
And I
that.
also, again, Lobo is he a villain in Superman?
He's kind of like an anti-hero. He's sort
Hmm.
of like a Deadpool with less winking at the audience, less fourth wall
Well,
breaking.
that'd
I
be cool.
think I'm not again. I'm not as familiar with the character, but he's kind of like a badass
Yeah.
bounty hunter in space that can go toe to toe with Superman. I mean, Superman beats
I
everybody,
would
but
love
it's
Jace Momoa to have a role where he can be a little edgier. I loved him in Fast 10. Fast 10's not my favorite movie. I enjoyed watching it because of
I mean
him.
that's kind of
Huh.
Lobo. That's kind of Lobo from what I
It is.
gather. That's kind of Lobo. That what he was in Fast X, but more anti-hero, less villainy because he is still very much a villain in Fast
Yeah, I'm
X.
on board with all this then. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I am too. I am too. I like all this stuff. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to the future of the DCU. But staying in the comic realm, we're going to move on to Marvel news, and we missed quite a lot on the Marvel front of things. There's a lot of news that has come out over the past week or so. One, it was reported in the Hollywood Reporter by Royce Kitt that the all the writers and directors on the new Disney Plus series of Daredevil Born Again have been completely let go, even though they've shot a lot of it, and the series will be reworked. It has also been reported, I think, in that same article, that Marvel will make changes to focus on multi season TV rather than limited series. And let's just stay on that for right now. Listen, I'm kind of in two minds on the Daredevil Born Again series. I think one, it is concerning that they approved these scripts, they shot half of them, or however much of them they shot, and then we're like, you know what, we're gonna scrap this completely. That's concerning that they did it, even though they knew it was bad. But I'm encouraged that they stopped it and they said, you know what? No, this isn't good enough. Let's rework this. Let's completely rework this and make it good. I think on one end it's concerning, but on the other hand, it's nice to know that they're like, you know what? No, let's stop it before it gets too far because we don't want a what is rumored to be an echo
Mm-hmm.
situation on our hands. There's also, again, like I said, reported that Marvel will change its focus to multi-season TV rather than limited series because they haven't had like a showrunner or like a show bible on these TV series, and they've kind of used their Marvel movie formula for TV, which has their TV series have been very hit and miss, uh, very very hit and miss, and not ending very well usually. Um, I think across the board usually. So it's nice to know that that's what they're doing now and focusing more on quality than on quantity. What is your take on the Daredevil situation and the
Pretty
multi-season TV
positive on both. Very
situation?
positive on multi-season TV. Pretty positive on Daredevil. I mean,
Yeah.
my biggest negative to Daredevil, honestly, is just bummed that it's long. It's gonna be a longer wait. But I'm proud of them for doing it. I wish they had done it with a couple projects already. I mean, they did it with Blade, right? I mean, something similar with Blade. I mean, they didn't necessarily shoot much of Blade, but
They didn't shoot
they
Blade, but
pulled the
they
plug on
have,
there. They're gonna
yeah, there's been a lot
rework
of
some
people
things into it, and these properties are
done it
so
multiple
important to
times.
people, especially Blade. Blade people are gonna. I'm looking forward to Blade so much, and yeah,
Yeah, it's Mahershala
yeah. So
Ali, two-time
I'm
Oscar winner, man.
I really want them. I do not want to be excited for that movie and it to be a letdown. Daredevil. Now, I did not watch a lot of the I don't know what universe they're considered, but the
Marvel Netflix TV shows, they're not
yeah,
really
but they
connected to
kind
the
of like
MCU.
I decided to watch Daredevil. I've been
Yeah,
recommended Daredevil because the people I've spoken to about it, it's been a pretty common theme that Daredevil's the best of the bunch. So I decided to watch it, and then especially when hearing
yeah,
that they were doing this Born Again show and kind of a loose crossover type of scenario, you know, I just thought this would be the show to watch. So I'm about halfway through it, and it is good. So I know people like the show and expect it to be as good or better in the MCU. They got to deliver it, I think. And so I also read in this same article or in the same news topic at least that like he wasn't wearing the suit until the fourth episode. I could see that being annoying. I could see like people being like, "We got." I mean,
it depends on how it's done, though. Like to me, it's like I don't watch Daredevil to see him in the suit. I watch it because I
mhm.
love the character of Matt Murdock, and I love I just love that world, that character. If you could do, you could definitely do something where he's not wearing the suit in the first four episodes, but it it depends on how they do it, you know. And I could definitely see people being annoyed with the fact that he's not wearing a suit. I will say, if they have the She-Hulk outfit, get rid of that. The mustard, the yellow, and the red. I hate that look. I hate it. Like I'm a Daredevil. Daredevil's my
Mhm.
third favorite superhero. I hate that look. Give me the full on red. I want the red outfit. Get rid of the yellow
Yeah,
mustard
I
look.
guess when
That's
I hear
terrible.
didn't wear the suit to the fourth episode, I assume that meant like very little action before the fourth episode. I guess that's what I assumed when I heard it. So I was like, that would yeah, that would be kind of
That would
boring.
be a
I
problem.
mean, not the now I also heard they might make it like a legal drama. I'm fine with all that stuff. Just like I said a minute ago with DC about each property being its own thing. I don't mind them making a legal drama out of a Marvel property. I think that'd be a cool idea.
They attempted to do that
Yeah,
with She-Hulk. It didn't
well,
really work
a
that
lot of things
well.
didn't work well. But speaking of, yeah, I'm into the multi-season TV and make Waldron a showrunner on a show and do it because I've been pretty underwhelmed and displeased with most of the Marvel TV stuff. I mean, I enjoyed the werewolf special thing. I love Loki. We'll talk more about that later.
That was great.
But the short series, I mean, I enjoyed Hawkeye, and I didn't hate you know WandaVision. I know WandaVision is divisive. I actually it was different enough for me that I thought it was, like,
Well,
fun, not necessarily satisfying, but, like, a fun concept.
I will say most people seem to love WandaVision. So you're in the majority on that one. I am the
I guess I
oddball that
just
doesn't
liked that they
like it.
went for it, kind of. And maybe they didn't stick the landing, and maybe the story wasn't as tight as it should have been, and maybe it was just kind of weird. Like, some of the stuff was just kind of like they left you unsatisfied and wasted some potential there. I guess I was just happy that they went for it and did something different and weird and unique, like similar to what we're talking about a second ago, making it its own
Yeah.
thing. And like Falcon and the Winter Soldier felt kind of in that every other Marvel product type of world. Hawkeye was fun. It was Christmas. I mean, some of them are fun, but some of them I really have not liked at all. And I've liked pieces of it. Now I'm kind of the oddball out on Moon Knight. I I guess I maybe jumped the gun too early. I watched 2 episodes of Moon Knight and recommended it to about 6 people, and I was like, "Dude, you got to watch Moon Knight after 2 episodes." And then and I didn't love it after that as much, but at the beginning of it, I really liked it. I mean,
It
honestly,
tapered off. Yeah. Well, I will say this. I really liked Moon Knight until the season finale. I thought that was the season finale was pretty rough. But overall, yeah, Marvel TV has been very hit and miss. It hasn't been, firing on all cylinders, and I think that this approach is probably going to benefit the brand a whole lot more. But Walker, that's not it with Marvel. There's this new book titled "The MCU: The Reign of Marvel Studios" by Joanna Robinson, Dave Gonzalez, and Gavin Edwards, where they do an excellent job of covering the story of the MCU as a whole. And by doing so, they unveiled a lot of information, some of which, if you really dig into it, you can do your own little Wikipedia research and figure out some of this stuff. But I don't want to. That's not me discrediting the authors of this book. Again, they do a great job of illustrating everything in this book and do a really good job of laying it out informationally. So I would highly recommend the book. But these are a few things that Marvel or that came out of this book. Some of the big things like Marvel wanting to cut out Iron Man from Civil War, where the Russos threatened to quit. Spider-Man: No Way Home never had a finished script due to elements constantly changing, and Peter 1 and Peter 3, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, not being signed on until 2 months into filming. Brie Larson wanting to quit the role of Captain Marvel because she's become disillusioned due to fan backlash. And of course, the biggest thing being MCU soft reboot post Secret Wars, where there's a quote saying this that I've seen going around, and I believe it's from Joanna Robinson. We have a quote from Kevin Feige sort of implying that, like, Secret Wars will serve as a soft reboot in which they can prune everything. That's not, to use a Lokiism, prune everything that's not working and just keep what is working and bring back people you thought were gone for forever. That's kind of taken a page out of what I thought the DCEU was
with
going
Flash.
to do, where they were going to take out, some things and keep some things. And I still think this, that the Flash was a complete success, like they thought it was going to
Mhm.
be. I think that would have been the case, but considering it hasn't, they're going to do a complete. That's my theory, anyway. They're going to do a complete clean slate. So here's what I'll say. All this information. That saying, Walker. The greatest lie, and I've said this before on my MCU deep dive I did a while back, where I covered phases 1, 2, and 3 of Infinity Saga. The greatest lie the devil ever told was convincing the world he didn't exist. Right? That's the saying. Well, the greatest lie Kevin Feige ever told was convincing the world that he had a plan. And what I mean by that is, people talk about the MCU as if, oh man, they plan out everything. That's why they succeed. It's because they plan. And Star Wars should plan it. DC should plan it. Everyone should have a plan. And it's like, that's not necessarily how the creative process works. What Marvel did was they announced release dates and put titles under those release dates under the guise of having a plan. And in reality, what was so brilliant about what they did was that they responded to the audience, and they were able to have this kind of back and forth relationship and give and take with the audience, to where if something didn't work, guess what? You're not seeing it in the next movie. Or if they put it in one movie, guess what? Next movie, they can reshoot it and restructure and move along. And that's why they were so good for so long. But once you get past the Infinity Saga, what happened to Marvel seems to be there was a change in leadership at Disney, and there was, it seems to me at least, a push to get out as much content as possible. And because of that, it overloaded their formula, which is two at most three movies a year. Well, in 2021, you got like
Yeah.
what, nine projects? And it doesn't, that formula of listening to your audience and responding and crafting your projects as you're going along to fit what the audience is really invested in and looking forward to, and putting creative heads in charge of this that can give the audience that, it took away from it, and it kind of messed with their formula to the point to where now they're kind of stuck in this place of, we've already shot some of this stuff, we've already planned some of this stuff, some of this stuff has already come out, and that's what's led to us being in the situation that we're in, where we are just being flooded with MCU stuff. Where, when is Moon Knight going to be seen again? Shang-Chi, probably the most successful new character, when are we going to see him again? We haven't seen him since his last movie. Eternals. There's El Celestial in the middle of the ocean hanging out, and there's just like
Right.
one reference to him, and it doesn't seem as focused. And I think that that's why. That's my theory, is that they had this really, really well constructed formula, brilliant formula even, of listening to the audience and engaging with them and changing the story along the way to fit what the audience was responding to where now you have so much out, and Kevin Feige is spread so thin, you're kind of stuck. And that's why I get why, okay, you know what? We have the Fantastic Four, we have the X-Men, let's reboot with a soft reboot. Once we get them in, once we have Secret Wars, and we can tell like Marvel proper, where we have all these characters minus Spider-Man, who still belongs to Sony. And I know that's me rambling on. Walker, you haven't
Oh,
spoken.
I
I'm so
loved what you
sorry.
said. I think I
But
agree with
like,
you completely. I don't even have much to add, and it's fine that you took that. I think you're exactly right. I mean, I think they, to add on, maybe they were looking at three movies a year when and then maybe their prime, and but when you cut that down to hours, we're talking 6 to 7.5 hours of content. Now these nine projects, we're talking 50, 60, 70 hours of content for everything. It's like enough, and yeah, and
people
I
can
get
keep up with
excited
that.
and I want slop, and we live in a fast paced society where we get tons of choices and they want to stay relevant and they always want to stay in your mind. But they are watering it down and they are losing quality, I think. And now I'm not a big fan of get rid of backtracking and doing things, but I think if they did it correctly and they set us off with the right intention to make quality content versus as much as they can possibly push out, I'm on board with it. I
Yeah, and you see from what they're doing with the
yeah.
Daredevil series, right? That to me is a sign of, it gives me confidence for the MCU going forward, because it's like, okay, you're willing to get rid of something that you've shot already a lot of and you've invested a lot of money in already. Okay. That's giving me confidence, and you're trying to zero in and get focus in this world that used to be acclaimed for its
Yeah.
focus. now not feeling as centralized and focused, and now you're trying to get that back. That's giving me confidence going forward. And I think once you get to something like Deadpool 3, which was originally slated to come out in May, um, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be pushed back now with everything going on with the SAG strike still being a thing. I think that's going to get pushed back. But I think once you get to Deadpool 3, I think you will see a change, and you will see that hopefully you will see the kind of consistency that we saw with phases 1, 2, and 3. Now, I didn't love everything in phases 1, 2, and 3, but guess what? They were really freaking consistent,
Yeah.
and that's what
I'll
made
add
them
one quick
special.
last thing. You said this as well that I thought was great. When are we gonna see Shang-Chi again, the Eternals or whatever? And I don't necessarily love all of that, but during that time period specifically, and still, one of the biggest hurdles I thought MCU was going to have to overcome was taking these characters that have been around for however many years beforehand, 23 movies or whatever led up to Endgame, that they nailed. I mean, they really nailed that cast, that crew, everybody. I mean, everybody was so great. We all
They
loved
really
them,
nailed.
and it was definitely it wasn't a complete reset or anything, but it was clear we're not going to see the same characters completely going forward in the same way. Like we were going to be mixing things up, and some new people were going to come on board, which is a tough thing to sell, when you're already like married and you're so into these characters originally. The way they handled it was so poorly because they introduced Shang-Chi, they introduced the Eternals, and then they left them for 3 years. And it's like, how about you make me like them? How about you give me more than 2 hours to, I mean, and I
Yeah.
don't mean give me 6 hours of She-Hulk to like her. I'm saying give me more content on one character, like specific characters. So, if they had done that, if they had made 3 properties since 2020 that involve Shang-Chi or the Eternals, maybe now I would remember one of the Eternals' names and I'd be able to refer to them and care about them at all. But they don't, because I mean, I don't even remember that movie. It was so long. I mean, that was the last thing I wanted to touch on, because I think if they had given me more to like, more to get attached to, more to care about, we'd be in a better spot.
Yeah, I agree with that. I completely agree with that. Like, we'll see how it goes, guys. Let us know in the comment section what you guys think of all this DC news, all this Marvel news, all the things that we've gone over recently. What do you think is the perfect strategy for DC? What do you think is the perfect strategy for Marvel? Let us know in the comment section down below. Moving on to the next big property, Star Wars. All right. So Matthew Vaughn, who's already been brought up on this podcast already, this episode on YouTube already, had an interesting idea when it comes to Star Wars. He said on this Happy Side Confused podcast that he did, again, podcast that I really recommend. Why are Star Wars characters so hallowed that from 1977 to now you can't redo it for a new audience? Star Wars is the Skywalker family, and that's where I think they've gone wrong. They forgot. They've done brilliantly on TV, but needs to be an epic new movie. That's what I do. Everyone is going to go batshit crazy, but let's bring it on. If you want a new generation, make the movies for them. The old generation, hopefully you can make it well enough that they enjoy it as well.
I hate it.
No,
I hate it.
don't
I
reboot
like
Star
Matt Vaughn.
Wars.
I
Yeah.
hate it. We don't even talk about this too long. I think this
I
is.
love Matthew
I
Vaughn,
mean,
but no.
I sound like an old man screaming at the sky, but I
Don't you do this
Star
to my
Wars isn't
Star
the move.
Wars.
That's just
Yeah.
not the move.
Now, here's the thing: what they need to do. All right,
Okay.
I have a hot take. All right, it's not reboot. I don't think you need a reboot. I think the story of Star Wars so far has been the Skywalkers. You told it through episodes 1 through 9, the Skywalker saga. That's what it's called. It's the Skywalker saga, right? It's about that family. That's why it hasn't expanded further. It's because it's about that family. You're right, So that's why it makes sense that 1 through 9 focuses on the Skywalkers. Having said that, you could do an episode 1 again, but it's a different book. Star Wars Episode 1,
Yeah, a
something
different
different.
saga.
And we follow that. Yeah, a different saga, and we follow that family, those people, whatever it's about, again. Or we follow a different family for however many movies. I think that that's something that they could do and probably should do once you get past the Filoni verse and everything going on with that. I mean, the closest thing to that seems like it's going to be
The James
guy who
Mangold
directed Logan.
biblical
What's his name?
thing. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's probably the closest thing to that because it's so far removed
Yeah,
from
I
everything
do think they
else.
should expand the universe and get into some stuff that's very unfamiliar, and I think that would be cool. And they've done it a little bit, but they're easing into it with like books, like the High Republic book series. I've read about
Yeah.
5 of those books. Not a big reader, but I just wanted to like touch on that era of Star Wars, and it's good. I mean, but it's about Jedi.
Yeah.
It's about I think it's 200 years before the Phantom Menace. The Sith are dormant; they're in hibernation. There's thousands of Jedi. Jedi are everywhere. They interact differently. They are far more flexible than they were during the Skywalker saga and the prequels. They cool approach. The bad guys are this group called the Nile. They're this nihilistic group of like pirate type people. Very cool.
Yeah. The nihilist.
Cool thing, but they're all books. I mean, I'm not your audience either, but I mean that's tough. You're gonna have to dip your toes in the water before they're gonna make a film about it to see if it would sell. Now, James Mangold's project sounds good. I mean, now the only character that crosses over into these books are Yoda, and he's not prominent. They just mention him in
Yoda.
passing
Yeah.
as like, oh, there's point at the screen like Leo, and but
Hey.
yeah. But it's cool. I mean, it's a fun. I mean, if anyone reads out there and wants and is a Star Wars fan, give it a go. It's a pretty good series, and they have books at young adult, children's, everything in between comics. And I think they might make a video game during that era too, coming out in a year or two.
You've done you've done more than me. So I haven't read any of the books. What I do is I
Yep.
listen to Alex and Molly Damon on Star Wars Explained of them break down everything from the New Republic or the High Republic.
It's a cool story. It's a cool time.
And they do yeah.
So yeah, I'm into them
It's a
expanding
really
it. Don't
cool story.
remake the Skywalker saga. Don't remake. I mean, just expand
No.
the universe. Make that. I mean, it just doesn't do anybody any favors.
Start over with a new episode 1, not on the Skywalker family. It's a new book, right? A new saga focusing on a different family or, whatever.
Yeah, and the
I
last
think
thing
it
I'll
should
say
probably
real
be a
quick.
family.
To be clear, I'm not unhappy with Star Wars. I'm pretty happy with what they've done. In the last
No, I'm
10
not either.
years, I mean, I know we have different opinions. I don't like everything. I didn't like Rise of Skywalker. I know some people did. I did like Last Jedi. I know some people didn't. I I didn't love I didn't like Boba Fett at all, and I didn't love Obi-Wan as much. But like Mando, love it. Ahsoka, love it. Andor, love it. Force Awakens, Last Jedi. I mean, there is a ton of content out there that I really, really like, and they're expanding into weird stuff. Like,
Oh.
I mean, I'm not an anime guy, but they're doing visions and anime. It's just cool that they're testing out different things. They're making more
It's really
animated
cool.
stuff with
Yeah.
the Tales of the Jedi. I'm happy with the way Star Wars is going, and I think they're expanding on it properly. And with the future plans, like the Mangold project or I guess the Ray project's a pretty on the nose thing. But Filoni, I mean, I'll give anything to him. Let him take over his movie. I'm happy with the Star Wars universe. I don't think we are in need. I love that they'll expand it and give us new stuff, but I don't think we're desperate for it. I don't think it's not like the MCU where we need something fresh. I think Star Wars is putting out good stuff.
Yeah. I think Star Wars is also putting out good stuff. The fan base is divided, but fan bases that have been all around since 1977, and you have so many different, audiences and sizes and everything like that. It's going to be slightly divided when it's been around for that freaking long. But yeah, no.
Well, luckily, I can
do.
still hear everything
Leave it
you're
alone.
saying. Hopefully, the audience can as well. So I think we're good as far as our technical difficulties went. I think we've fought through them, but you want to get into some trailers? So
Let's get
first
into
up, we
it, man.
got The Color Purple. They're going to do a musical adaptation. Have you seen this?
I have seen. So I've seen the two trailers, and it
Yes, me
looks
too.
fantastic. The original is Steven Spielberg. He directed it. I believe he is producing this one. Yep, alongside Oprah Winfrey. This looks really good. This looks really good. It has Halle Bailey in it, and she was phenomenal in The Little Mermaid.
She
I thought she was terrific. Her voice is like
really great.
angelic. It's
And this is a musical
incredible.
adaptation. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Um, yeah, I've actually not seen
yeah,
the original movie. I should see it.
it's a good
I
movie.
should definitely see it. But this trailer does look great. I will throw out quick call out Danielle Brooks. She played in Orange Is the New Black. Phenomenal actress.
Hmm.
Phenomenal. One of the best parts of that show. She was a supporting character, but awesome. Really excited to see what she does with it. She's powerful. She can steal the room. So I'm really excited about that. And obviously Halle Bailey, you're right.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the movie.
What do we got next? We got American Fiction. I think this is the one I'm the most excited about. American Fiction with oh, yeah.
Jeffrey Wright.
This is the most different I've ever seen Jeffrey Wright. Jeffrey Wright, I love Jeffrey Wright. I enjoy him in everything.
Right?
But he a little bit in my world has a little bit of the Ryan Reynolds. I'm trying to think of someone else. The people who play a very similar character every time to me, and they nail it. But they oh yeah, that's a Jeffrey Wright character, and I've loved everything he's ever done. I really enjoy him. I like him in Wes Anderson stuff, especially. I think he's perfect for that. I like him in Hunger Games. Westworld. He was great, especially season 1. Big fan of Jeffrey, and I liked him in Bond too. This is
I love him in Bond. I love him in the Batman.
yeah.
As
He's
Commissioner
he's he's
Gordon.
he's a all time character actor right now. He's I really enjoy him, but this is him stretching, and I'm all for it. I love it.
It looks so freaking funny, and it's like that
Yeah,
uncomfortable humor. So like, I really want to be in an audience when I watch
me
this.
too. It looks hysterical. Who directs it? Cord Jefferson. I don't know if I know him.
It won the audience award at TIFF,
Huh.
so it's getting a lot of
So
praise.
Cord
I'm
Jefferson
looking
is the
forward to it, man.
director who I'm not familiar with. This might be his directorial debut. Or wait, hang on. Yeah, I think it's his first director movie, but he was a writer on the Watchmen miniseries on HBO, which is phenomenal. Master of
Hmm.
None, which is Aziz Ansari's
Great.
show on Netflix, which is very very well written, very good. So that's somebody I'd want in the corner getting their directorial debut. I'm excited for this. I think it'll be quite good.
Yeah, I do
Next we got
too.
Napoleon. I've been seeing I did not see the Napoleon like online. I happened to see it for the first time in the theater.
Dude,
Yeah.
it looks sick. Whose country are we in?
My country.
Mine. It's God. I picked up the crown of, what does he say, France in the gutter, and I placed it atop my head. Joaquin Phoenix. I mean, it doesn't need to be
One of the
said,
greats.
but he's so
Yeah,
good.
he's gonna
He's
be
so freaking good, and I don't care that he's not doing a French accent. I don't care. I don't care at all. I'm totally on board for this. Ridley Scott he's hit and
yeah.
miss, sure.
Got some
However,
hits though.
he is such a phenomenal. His hits they are hits, man. They are hits. Yeah, I'm so looking forward to this. The battle sequences seem brutal, which makes sense given what we saw with Ridley Scott's extended cut of Kingdom of Heaven, which I completely that's a great movie that I absolutely recommend. Of course, Gladiator. I mean, my God, Ridley he's a phenomenal filmmaker, and I think that this movie look like it could be a Best Picture
Yeah.
contender. I'm on
Yeah, I
board
was
for
gonna
this.
say Vanessa
Vanessa
Kirby.
Kirby too, with the scene where she does the thing with her legs, and she says, "Once you get a glimpse." You'll never look at
I
anything
don't
else
remember,
again.
but
What does
yeah, I
she
know what
say?
scene
It's
you're
something
talking
like
about. She's
it's something along those lines, and it's like, dude,
yeah, and
yeah,
did you hear that there's like a 4 hour cut of it? I saw on Instagram. Yeah, I heard
that
there's
doesn't surprise me.
like a Ridley cut that's 4 hours long.
I'm already on
Yeah,
board.
I'm excited for that. I'm excited for that. We got another trailer from Wonka. I'm pumped for Wonka. I think I'm going into it optimistically. I didn't love the Johnny Depp one, but I love the original one and love Timothy Chalamet. Love a lot of the people attached to it.
So I love the first trailer. It just looked magical. This one just continues to do that, but there's more a few Grant's Oompa Loompa in there. And the interaction that they have at the end is so freaking funny because it reminds me of like it's gonna sound weird, but sometimes how me and my wife interact. And it's just it's so funny. Yeah, I'm totally on board for this.
There's a bunch. I mean,
I'm
Keegan
so
Michael
excited.
Key's in this. Hugh Grant, Olivia Colman. I love Olivia Colman.
It just it, it looks so magical. Paul King, he did God,
Oh yeah, and I haven't
Paddington 1
seen
and
those. I've
2,
just
which
heard
are
nothing
both
but good
just
things about those two.
phenomenal movies. Yeah, he's gonna do a phenomenal job, I think,
Yeah,
with
I
this.
mean, I'm on board. I mean, it comes out around Christmas time, I think, doesn't it?
Yeah, December
Yep,
like
December
15th or
15th. So
something like
yeah,
that.
that'll definitely be in the theater for that one. Last up, we got the Iron Claw. I know we're both excited for this. It looks
Yeah.
great. I the trailer looks great.
E- this was a great trailer. And if you know the story of the Von Erichs is an incredibly tragic story, but if you are a wrestling fan, this is like a
Right.
legendary family. Legendary family of phenomenal wrestlers. Uh, and this is going to be a huge cast. You got Zach Efron, Jeremy Allen White, Harrison Dickinson, Lily James is in this. I There's a rumor, or at least he's on the Wikipedia page. The wrestler who always wears the scarf in AEW, I forget his name. He's supposed to be in this. I'm very. I think he's their heavyweight champion, but I'm very much looking forward to this because there's a rich story that you could tell about this family. And this is one of my most anticipated films of the year. I am a Zac Efron apologist. Like, I am someone who thinks that he is a great actor, not just a good actor. I think he's a great actor that unfortunately has been given some projects that haven't been able to properly showcase his full potential as an actor. And I think he is someone who has loads of potential as an actor. And you see it even in some of the movies that he does that aren't great. He is good in them. And I think with a movie like this, you are giving him a platform to showcase what he can do with some dramatic chops. And he's shown flashes, and I think people are aware of those flashes, but I think people need to recognize that this is a dude who could be an Academy Award winner. He could be a Matthew McConaughey type of actor. And I think this is the perfect movie to showcase that to the world.
Well,
I
I'll do
think.
you one better. I have this small list that's kind of ever flowing of people that I consider to be some of the most talented people that exist at a given time. Some of those people, I mean, a lot of people disagree with me, but I mean, like Jamie Foxx is always on the list.
Oh, he's
Justin
great.
Timberlake's on the list a lot. Childish Gambino, Donald Glover is on the list a lot. Just people who excel at a lot of
Yeah.
things and do a lot of them at an elite level. Hugh Laurie that played House is actually one of them. I mean, these people are hilarious or they're musical. Zac Efron is on that list to me. I think Zac Efron is extremely talented
Yeah.
in terms. I mean, I think he's got a great singing voice. I think he's a great dancer. I think he's. I mean, I agree. I think most projects he's been in, he's been one of the best parts of it. And whether it's a comedy, whether it's Neighbors, or even like Baywatch or something, or like Dirty Grandpa, or was that what it's called? he's
Dirty
great. I
Grandpa.
mean, like I want to see him more. I mean, obviously he's a handsome man too.
And he's all the, the thing is, he's always like shredded in movies, but in this, he looks like
Yeah.
jacked. Like he looks big, like bigger than he normally does. I wonder what
So you
his
don't have to
routine
apologize
was.
for Zac Efron to me. I mean, I think I am on board. I'm on his train, and I agree. I think Matthew McConaughey's a great comp. I think he could grow into that if he wants to. He's also taken the back seat for a while, where I think maybe there's been some health stuff or whatever, but he's not been in the spotlight for a couple years. He's made a couple like reality type.
He did that. He
Yep.
made the Ted Bundy movie for Netflix. He also did the which he
Mhm.
was I thought he was really good in. He also made Firestarter, which he was good in what he was given, but that movie's not great. That
Yeah.
movie was not good at all. And he was also in the world's greatest beer run, which I liked. I know a lot of people didn't, but I really liked it.
Yeah,
And I
I
thought he was
haven't
good.
seen or I apologize a lot for The Greatest Showman. I'm a sucker for that movie. I think that movie is really great,
Oh, that's a really good
and I
movie.
think he's a great part of it. I mean, I'm a big Zac Efron guy, so yeah, I'm really excited for that. Jeremy Allen White too. I was a Shameless guy. I really enjoyed Shameless in the earlier seasons, especially, and Philip Jeremy Allen White's character, and that was good. And The Bear. I don't know if you've seen that 2 seasons in a row. I mean, Jeremy Allen White's part of it.
No, I've had so many people recommend it to me. I watched like the first 2 episodes and then I haven't gone back to it, but I need to. I
I
liked
mean,
it.
if I'm being completely honest, I like the show a lot. I think you'll appreciate the show more as like from a critical perspective more than just an audience member, if that makes sense. It's just so well done, and the performances are fantastic. The some of the direction in it is next level. I mean, there's like long take episodes. The sense of chaos. They have like almost like an uncut gems sense of like uh, chaotic anxiety. They can induce that in you, but they do it in almost a more
Yeah.
palatable way, I think, because I don't know, uncut gems can almost be hard to get through. The bear, I don't know, they do a great job. I recommend it. And what I mean by it's better from a critical perspective than an audience perspective is I could see a regular, just a general, I just want to watch a show and be entertained, maybe be underwhelmed by it or be bored by it. Like the story doesn't progress enough. There's not enough like turns and twists in it. I kind of feel similarly about Succession, but Succession obviously is a humongous show. But it's just more of like just a masterclass in writing that I really enjoy. So now this will give Jeremy Allen White a chance to show his chops in the movie theater, which will be fun to do.
Yeah, and I'm excited for that because the 2 episodes that I've watched of the Bear, he was really good in. Again, I need to go back and actually watch the show. I'm so bad about that. If my wife isn't involved in watching a TV show, then sometimes I kind of
Yeah.
just forget about it.
Well, let's get into what we've been watching. I know we'll talk about Killers of the Flower Moon here, but before we get to some of the stuff we both saw, what have you seen? Last we got a couple weeks to cover. Really, if you've been
So
watching stuff.
we do, man. So like I've been watching Gen V, which I know I won't get into very deeply because that is a show that I really want you to watch. First, you have to watch The Boys seasons 1 through 3, and then get to Gen V. I think you
Cody's
would love the
recommended it
show,
to me 100
Walker.
times.
Myself, I really,
Cody will
yeah,
just
I'm gonna
keep.
keep recommending it to you
So,
until.
have you watched Gen V yet, or have you watched the?
Listen, we're
Yeah,
gonna
I'm
double
sure
team
he'll
you on
just
this.
text me.
We're gonna double team you on this. We're gonna
It'll be. It's
coordinate.
on my list, or The Boys is on
Yeah,
my
we're gonna
list.
coordinate
My list
text
is just
message
so long.
chains. You have just a ridiculous list. But it's a really awesome show. I'm loving it so far. Lizzie Broadway as Emma is wonderful. I love that character. Maddie Phillips as Kate Dunlap. Her powers are really cool. Patrick Schwarzenegger really surprised me. I'm pulling for him because I love Arnie, so
Yeah,
I want his son to do very well. And he's really good. He was surprised me. That's the first thing I've
his
ever
name's
seen him act in,
Patrick.
and he was really good.
Doesn't he has
Yeah,
another son
Patrick
too? Right?
Schwarzenegger. I take that back. I've seen him in 2 things. I saw him in oh my god. the Chris Pratt TV show that he did for Amazon. Why am I forgetting the name of it?
I don't remember. Sorry.
Forget it. But he was really good in that. It's a little role, but he's in that, and I really enjoyed the
I
show.
saw Joe Schwarzenegger,
But
his
yeah,
other son, in on Dancing with the Stars last year. It was fun to watch there. Sorry. Yeah.
oh really? But yeah, it's a really good show. Gen V, highly recommend it. So far, it is a must see for me. If you're into the boys, I think you'll like this a lot.
The Terminal List.
Next that I'm watching in terms of
Sorry.
thank you, the Terminal List. God dang it, man! I hate it when I forget something. It's like
Plus,
on my
someone's
tongue.
listening in
It's
their
there.
car just screaming
I forget
at
it.
the speaker, like, the Terminal List.
Someone's like, the Terminal List, you dipshit. Yeah. Next up is the House of or the Fall of the House of Usher. So I am a huge Mike Flanagan fan. Doctor Sleep, I think, is one of the most underrated horror films ever made. I liked his Ouija movie. Uh, I really, really love The Haunting of Hill House. That is one of the greatest shows, just period, for me ever that I've ever watched. Emotionally, that show wrecked me at the end of it. I absolutely loved it. What he's able to do with balancing drama with horror and using that to amplify a story. He does it across all his projects. He did it, like, again, Doctor Sleep. He did it in Haunting of Hill House, Haunting of Bly Manor, and then Midnight Mass, which was freaking phenomenal. Not enough people talk about that. And the Fall of the House of Usher, which is based off the Edgar Allan Poe book or novel, whatever. This is a modern take on it, and of course, you get your Flanagan specials, which is where you have all his returning cast coming back to it, that he's worked with before. And I'm only 4 episodes in, but Carly and I are both watching it, and
I
we're
wonder if Gus would like
freaking
it.
loving it, man. It's listen, there is a rave sequence in that rivals the rave and Blade. Let me just let me let me just say that. I'm not going to give away anything there, but so far it is a must see. It's freaky, but it's also so far excellently paced, incredibly well written, beautifully directed, and above all else, man, that dialogue is so good. Mike Flanagan is he's awesome, man. I love that guy. I think he's phenomenal. And this is a show that I think if you're into horror, if you're into like drama, and you're into like something like Succession, but
Mm-hmm.
with a horror bend to it, this is it. This is it. This is really good. I
That's
like
good.
it so far. So far, only 4 episodes in, but yeah, recommend that. And next up is Talk to Me. Finally got around to
I
seeing
haven't
it,
seen it yet.
Walker. It's really eerie. It's incredibly freaky. I really liked it a lot. I so I didn't see this in theaters. It didn't come anywhere near me. I knew kind of based off the trailer what it was going to be about. As I said on this show, the thing that freaks me out in horror films is not slasher movies. It's demonic possession and that kind of stuff that deals with Satan. Freaks me out, man. It freaks me out because of my upbringing, because of my religion. I am the poorest example of a Christian, but I claim to be one. I am one. But that's why that kind of stuff freaks me out. And this freaked me out. It was eerie, it was creepy, but most of all, the thing I like about it the most is the themes of it. Is especially I think it speaks to the TikTok generation a lot, where sometimes we don't necessarily feel seen, and the links will go to be seen, especially if you're someone who's experienced a lot of trauma and you don't feel like you fit in, and what you'll do to fit in and what the consequences of that can be. I really really enjoyed this movie, and this is a first time film for a couple of YouTubers. I think the directors Danny and Michael, Filippo. I am so sorry. I'm just butchering your name right now. But yeah, there are a couple of YouTubers, I believe, and this is an incredibly well directed, well written, tight hour and 35-minute horror film that it'll stay with you. It'll stick with you. It clings to you. It's a must see for me, by the way.
So I caught up on a lot of stuff. I'm gonna breeze through it here though, so we don't hold us up too long. But I was way behind on my shows. I've been behind on them for a while. I really grinded into them this last 2 weeks. So saw some great stuff, saw some not so great stuff. Let's start with not so great. I caught up on all my Walking Dead stuff. I was missing out on. I've always watched Walking Dead. I think Walking Dead had a great product. I mean, really like maybe an elite level show, seasons 1 through 5, and it was still great, like season 6 and 7. And then after that, it went on for 4 extra seasons, and it really dropped off in quality. They had spinoffs, Fear of the Walking Dead, Tales of the Walking Dead, World Beyond, all these shows, not ever nearly the level of Walking Dead, not even good. But they did new spinoffs, Dead City, Walking Dead Goes to New York with Negan and Maggie, trash, not good. Didn't use New York as a character. It kind of felt similar to how I felt about Scream 6. I felt like it was a missed opportunity that they didn't go in hard enough on. Fear of the Walking Dead, the first half of the final season, thank God, terrible. Hot trash, hate it. Do not recommend it unless you're a completionist. Must skip. Daryl Dixon, the favorite character from Walking Dead, especially after Rick Grimes left the show. Daryl goes to France. And they did use France a little better than the Negan show used New York, and this was the best of the bunch. It's still just not very good. The budget is non-existent, and whatever's there is going to the actors that have stuck around. It's become a small show. And they are expanding this universe, in my opinion, 7 years too late. This really could have been a hit if they had done it at the peak of Walking Dead. They waited until it was terrible just to milk the cow. Not into it. The Fear of the Walking Dead, the second half of the final season starts tonight, and I will have to watch it because I've put 500 hours into the show. Yeah,
You hate yourself?
I can't not watch it. Bad though. Now, a show that gets a lot of hate that I am kind of a defender of is Black Mirror. People don't like Black Mirror. I think people roll their eyes when you talk about Black Mirror. People think it.
There's some Black Mirror episodes I like.
I mean, they're not all good, but every season has some good stuff.
Listen, the Striking Vipers episode, like, dear God, that one took me by surprise. I was like, whoa. This episode.
There's a lot of really good ones. Yeah, I've seen them all.
Have you seen that one?
There's a lot of them that I really like, and my biggest beef with Black Mirror is the first episode. Have you seen the first episode about the Prime Minister and the pig on the news in the middle of the street? It's not a good episode, and it's the pilot.
Okay.
And bottom line, somebody like a prime minister gets blackmailed to have sex with a pig, and on TV, it's like, what? Like, when you watch it, you're like, what did I just watch? So it's almost an impossible show to recommend to anybody. Like, you wouldn't recommend it to your parents or something. You're gonna have to be like, yeah, just skip one. Maybe it's episode 2, it starts getting pretty good. I don't know why they made that the pilot's terrible. But there's this season, I think there was 5 episodes this season. Good stuff. Great actors too. I mean, there's an episode with Josh Hartnett and Aaron Paul. Awesome. I forgot her name. The woman that plays the daughter in Schitt's Creek is in it. Who I love. The David girl. She's great. A lot of good stuff. I recommend Black Mirror. I think it's still good, and there's still things that keep me on the edge of my seat, and I still think it's a fun and creative show, and a pretty decent commentary on social stuff that's not your everyday version of it.
So would you give it like a must see? Skip it?
Well, no, obviously, I would give it a see it. I would give it a high end of a see it. I if you're into that type of thing, I think you'll. I mean, they're not all good. I mean, you watch 5-episode season. I mean, 3 of the episodes are great, and the other 2 are nothing's non-watchable really. Then I caught up on some movies, and I filled some gaps in my movie miss. My wife showed me Poltergeist. Never seen it. Pretty good.
Ooh. Carolyn, don't go into the light.
I'd never seen it. I'm shocked I hadn't seen it. My one of my babysitters growing up, me and my cousin, her name was Felice, and she used to show us all the old classics. It's where we saw Terminator and Predator and Time Cop and RoboCop and all these types of shows that we had to skip through the bad parts and watch when we were too young to be watching them. This was one that I think he had seen. That was always like I never saw it when I was over. You know what I mean? But I had heard about it a lot. Pretty good. Love Craig T. Nelson in it. I think the parents are great characters. I think. I mean, it's more childish than I thought. Jess watched it. Jess was a big fan of it when she was a child, and she actually came in with like it's actually a little scarier than I remember it being. I thought it was a little more childish, and I didn't have any reference.
Freaky, and those skeletons are real skeletons, by the way.
Like real,
which is gross. Real. Yeah,
but I enjoyed it. I had fun. I mean, I guess I'd give it a must see for the sake of it just being a classic. My rating's probably in the mid to high 70s or so, probably. But just from the sake of it being kind of, you get kind of a different scale when you start talking about just movies you got to see, even though they may not be.
Yeah. That's a must see. You got to add that one in. Yeah.
Last night I went back to back with Bodies. Have you seen that? Good.
I have not seen that one.
Good.
I wanted to see it, but I didn't see it.
Pretty high on my horror list. I'm not a horror guy. Good, fun, creative, kind of a a bit of a commentary, satisfying. I think it's good. I recommend it. Pete Davidson's in it. I rated it high. I mean, it was. I have it somewhere in the 80s. It's. So I'd put it in the must see category. I think it's quite good. Jess and I both liked it. I'm pretty sure she liked it. That rarely happens where we watch a horror movie, especially horror, because she loves horror and I don't. And every now and then I'll be like, well, here's a horror movie. I really want to see it. You want to watch it? She'll watch it. Be like, nah. And speaking of, I'll skip my other back-to-back for a second. I finally watched X. Have not seen Pearl yet, but I did see X and I loved it. I think Mia Goth is fantastic. I really like the cast in X. She didn't love it as much as me.
Yeah. X is terrific. It's kind of slow at the beginning, but then once you get going,
it's just the perfect level of like weird and gross, but not like overdone. I really liked it. I thought it was great. I'm really excited to see Pearl. The performances were awesome too.
Pearl is, I think, better. So I'm interested to see.
After Bodies last night, I caught up on Joyride, the comedy movie from the same people.
Oh my god, I didn't see that one. I thought you were about to say like the Paul Walker movie that came out back in 2001, but you're talking about the comedy.
The people that make Crazy Rich Asians.
Yeah, I'm
it was pretty funny.
I really want to see
funny.
That.
Jess liked it a lot. It was good. It was good. Palate cleanser after Bodies last night. But so yeah, I would recommend pretty much everything I saw except Walking Dead. I've been watching a lot of good content.
Yeah, I was just say that was like a hard pass.
I'm just so disappointed in it. It's because part of it was I was 18 episodes.
Stop watching it, Walker.
I put in 11 seasons of Walking Dead. I put in 7 or 6.5 seasons of Fear of the Walking Dead, 2 seasons of Walking Dead World Beyond, 1 season of Tales from the Walking Dead, 1 season of Dead City, 1 season of Daryl Dixon. I mean, I gotta finish.
Okay, tap out and watch something different. Watch something
I've also
new.
been watching How I Met Your Father.
Watch more of your classics.
I'll go ahead and add that in a don't recommend as well. They canceled that.
Yeah.
I love How I Met Your Mother. I'm a How I Met Your Mother guy. That was one of the first shows that like got me into TV. Like TV.
It was legend. Wait for it. Dairy. Yeah.
So that's all I watched in the last 2 weeks. Some good, some bad. I did also finally see Exorcist Believer.
Oh, you did? How much fun did you have watching it, man?
I did.
Did you have a good time?
For this for a second.
He's frozen. He's frozen because the movie was so terrible. He doesn't know how to respond.
Fuck.
So I feel like you've asked me this question before. I feel like this is a little bit of deja vu.
Yeah, So let's just continue the conversation that we've been obviously having, wearing the same clothes because we're, it just happened.
Yeah. It's just happened. Technical difficulties are a big problem. We've been wearing the same clothes for like 3 days now. Look the same. Don't even need to shower, man.
So
We just look the exact same.
let's try again. I
Let's.
did, however, finally see Exorcist Believer.
Oh, you did. How'd you like it?
It's not good, not good.
Mm.
But I know you have been champing at the bit to share your thoughts on it. So I'm gonna let you take this away and drive.
Yeah. So, look, I'll break this up into two parts. I think as a horror film, much like a comedy, if a comedy is funny, I can forgive a lot. I can look past a lot. If a horror film is scary, I can forgive a lot. I can look past a lot because it's effective in what it's trying to do. This is not a particularly effective horror film because it's not scary. All the scary bits are in the trailer, and I thought the trailers were really freaky. Um, there's not much there. I don't think it's not as chilling and freaky as the original in any way, shape, or form. Got some creepy moments, but overall, it doesn't land. We are going to be spoiling all the movies that we're talking about here, and all the TV shows that we've seen. So I'll just get into some spoilers here. I
Yeah,
think when
timestamps down
Catherine,
below.
yeah, I think when Catherine gets dragged to hell, that was creepy. When you hear the "I choose you, Catherine," and she gets pulled underneath the water, that
Yeah,
was pretty effective, especially because it's a 13-year-old girl. As a drama, because the first Exorcist film, the reason it's so effective is because not only is it a good horror film, but it's also a great drama as well. Uh, I think from a drama standpoint, this film is the performances are great across the board, no complaints there. I think Leslie Odom Jr. in particular is very good. I think the demonic possessed girls when they get possessed. I think it's Lydia Jewett and Olivia O'Neill. I think is their names. They're very good when they get possessed and everything like that. But the biggest issue with this film, in terms of the drama of it, is the script. The script is not good. It's very, very half baked. It's so half baked. The first half is very entertaining, but then once you get it, very entertaining and very engaging. But then once the girls get possessed, it feels like the movie is trying to tackle so many things, and then it tries to make this like you know a statement on faith, and it comes across as being very hokey and not very well executed in terms of how they handle it. It's about as subtle as Evil's Dies Tonight from Halloween Kills, and the exorcism itself, you know it, it's like every other Exorcist movie that we've seen over the years. There's nothing chilling, there's nothing effective about it, but also there's all these no name characters that we don't really know that well, that are like, one of them's like a Baptist minister. You have a priest, you have a nun, and you have a voodoo lady, and it's like, a priest and a rabbi walk into a bar kind of joke. It's like the Avengers of exorcists walk into here, and it doesn't really add anything to the plot. Uh, I think, again, I think that's where this movie completely fails, because the first movie, and I'm not trying to keep comparing it to the original, but the reason the original works so well is because when you break that movie down, it is about a mother who is at her wits' end, who is scared to death that she's going to lose her daughter because she doesn't know what in the world is going on with her. And then on the other side of that, you have this priest who just lost his mother, who is losing faith. And what makes that movie so impactful is that movie is about finding your faith in having courage in your faith in the darkest of circumstances. And this movie, I left it and I questioned, I was like, what is it really about aside from the hokey, can't we all just get along kind of faith message, which doesn't really land. Again, I think the performances are good as far as like trying to set this up as like a series, because I know you got Exorcist, Believer, you got Deceiver. Guarantee you that third one's going to be called Redeemer or something like that. And again, Catherine goes to hell at the end of this. They're gonna go get her back. Like that's what's gonna happen. But their attempt to set this up, the movie just kind of ends, and it doesn't really tease what's gonna happen next at all. I mean, we can assume someone's gonna try to go get Catherine, and we can assume that person is gonna be who showed up at the end of this, which is Reagan. And don't even get me started on what they did to Ellen Burstyn in this movie. She's in it for like 10 minutes. But yeah, this movie was just so disappointing. It's so disappointing, and I hate saying that because I am a big fan of the original. Now, I haven't liked any of the other ones. The original to me is one of the greatest movies of all time, let alone one of the greatest horror films, if not the greatest horror film ever made. I am a big fan of David Gordon Green. He's from the North Carolina area, so like I'm always rooting for him. I think he's an incredibly talented filmmaker. I like a lot of his movies. I just don't think horror is in his wheelhouse, and that's okay, But I hate to do it. It's just I don't want to dogpile on a movie, but this is a bad movie. This is not a good movie. This is a skip it for me, man. Like I really, really, I'm really disappointed by it. And don't even get me started on Catherine's father in this movie and what he does at the end. That's so stupid. And then him, when the exorcism's going on, he's just going out and having a cigarette break. Like, what the hell? Like, yeah, it's so stupid.
Yeah, it sucks. I mean, I agree with almost everything you said. I mean, the Catherine's father, Norbert Leo Butz, I actually like him as an actor. He was in The Girl from Plainville, the story about like a Massachusetts story, and then he was big in Bloodline, which is a show I really enjoyed on Netflix, and he was pretty good in those. He was always kind of a tortured soul in both of them, and it was not a well written character, just like the rest of this movie. I mean, this kind of thing's not my cup of tea anyway. So we differ in a couple ways. Number one, my expectations were not high going into it, so I was not very let down by the movie. I at no point was super jazzed up about it, and it delivered about where I would have expected it. I wanted to be pleasantly surprised. I didn't expect it, especially after I hear the way the world feels about it. But you're right. The script, the dialogue is just awful. I mean, and I hate when
That's hokey.
Such poor dialogue. Like, I don't know.
It's like when they walk into the exorcism scene, and it's like the nun goes, oh, like that, and then the guy has to say, yeah, the smell's gotten worse. It's like, yeah, no shit.
Yeah, and I mean, and sometimes the dialogue can be so, I don't know what the word is, wooden or something, that it ruins performances, because there are people in this movie. There are talented people in this movie.
Yeah,
So I just mentioned one. The Catherine's dad is a talented person in what he does. Obviously, Burstyn and Leslie Odom Jr.
Academy Award.
Yeah,
Academy Award nominee.
And I forgot the nurse, and she's a major character in Handmaid's Tale, and she does great in that. But the dialogue is written so poorly that it almost like makes people look like bad actors sometimes, and it's not their fault. I mean, it's just, what are they going to do with what they're given?
You got to do the best with what you're given, and they try.
Yeah, I'll say I didn't. You summed a lot of it up for us here, so I don't have to harp on it too much. But the story was pretty shallow to me. It was not. I was never particularly scared. I mean, there, like you said, yes, there were some creepy moments, but A, they were in the trailer, or B, like, they didn't earn it. Like the drag to hell, like I didn't. It's a little girl getting dragged to hell. I didn't give a shit. I don't like.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's, you should care. It's a little girl getting dragged to hell. Her soul is damned. And I like that. You should care about that. But this movie doesn't go out of its way to make you care about these characters. Like, I think, within this movie, there is a good movie in it. And I hate to like armchair quarterback a movie, a Monday morning quarterback a movie in terms of, oh, well, if they'd done this or done this, it would have been better. It's like, you got to judge the movie based off of what it gives you, not off of what you want it to be or what you wanted from it. You got to judge it based off of what it is. I think off of what it is, it's not good. However, I think if like you focus on Ann Dowd's character and the stuff going on with her, and you focus on just Leslie Odom Jr., guess what? That's a better movie, I think. Because it's more focused, it's more centralized. You don't like Catherine, like, and she's the creepier of the two, I will say, when they're possessed for sure.
Yeah.
And her performance is really good, but like that part of it adds nothing to it other than kind of setting up a sequel, but they don't really they just end the movie.
Yeah, you're talking about this and Exorcist, Deceiver, and possibly our prediction for Redeemer. I can't think of a movie that left me wanting less. Like nothing about this movie, the story, how it was resolved, nothing left me being like, well, we got to see what happens next. Nothing. I don't think it was like structured properly. I was surprised when I heard that there was a sequel and possibly, is it a definite thing? There's a trilogy, or is that just what we think it is?
So it's a definitely so Blumhouse bought the rights for $400 million. Or not Blumhouse. I think Universal bought the rights for $400 million. Then Blumhouse produced this movie. I forget what the budget was. Based off the budget, I think it's going to be very profitable. I think, but off the $400 million that they paid for it, like that's I don't know if they'll make that back. But they announced a trilogy.
I got the IMDb pulled up right here, and worldwide, it made about $109 million.
Okay, and what's the budget?
Where is it in here?
But like, while you're looking at that, like I think they announced a trilogy with David Gordon Green directing the trilogy, and I'm pretty sure. I don't know if they've already shot Deceiver or not. I know that's the title. It's Believer, Deceiver, and then there's a third one that I don't think is titled, and I believe, like, if I'm guessing, it's going to be called Redeemer. I mean, that makes the most sense. Okay, so that's profitable.
Yeah, man, it's a bummer though. I wish. So I mean, the direction of this movie is not bad either. I mean, like the way the camera works is pretty good. I like David Gordon.
Flashes of the stuff on the screen when it flashes up is
And I like his stuff, and I agree completely. I mean, in our house, we typically call them the Charleston guys. I know they're working Charleston now, but I know they've done a lot of North Carolina work, and they're from around here. Love. I mean, the HBO shows, Eastbound and Down, Vice Principals, Righteous Gemstones. I mean,
Righteous Gemstones is like my favorite TV show.
Love that. It's one of the best things running right now, for sure. I mean, they're very good, and they the movies that have been out have been good, but I did like the first Halloween, from this group of guys, the remake, a reboot, a requel. I did not like Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends at all.
I didn't like either of them. I thought Halloween, the one that they did in 2018, I like the last half of it, but the rest of it I just wasn't really into. Halloween Kills is like really bad, and then Halloween Ends is worse somehow.
I don't like what they did with Ellen Burst. I mean, they've treated her kind of like some grizzled vet that's like smoking a cigar with like a 5 o'clock shadow, hadn't been in the war. We're gonna have to bring her
for years, guys.
Yeah, that's exactly how they treat her. It was weird.
Off a lot of demons. Yeah, like it's like it like it's not that character. I'm glad that they brought her back. I love Ellen.
Yeah, that's always fun. Always fun, and I'm a sucker for that kind of thing. But
the story of her coming back, like she did, like refuse to come back until they offered her so much money. She just was like, "All right, well, you know what? I'm going to set up." I forget what she did exactly, but I believe she set up like like
Scholarship.
a scholarship for it, which
Hmm.
good on her.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, I mean, I give it a skip it as well, man. I'm pretty low. So I will say, I was pretty surprised because I didn't have high hopes. It obviously got terribly reviewed, and then you gave it. You didn't give me spoilers or anything, but I knew you didn't like it, and so my expectations were very low. And about halfway through the movie, I was kind of like, I mean, it's bad, but like, it's not as bad as everyone's making it out to be. I don't like hate it. I mean,
It gets worse as it goes
yeah,
along. It like
it's the
feels like I tell you what, the movie feels like you know how like Fantastic Four in 2014 Fantastic Four, where like the first 30 minutes of the movie, you're like, or at least for me, I was like, this isn't that bad. This is pretty good. And then the more it goes on, you're like, oh no, this is like a really bad movie.
yeah,
This is kind of similar, like structurally, how like the first half of it, when they're looking for the girls and everything like that, I'm like, okay, I'm engaged in this. But then once you get to where they find them and everything, the movie just completely falls apart. And like, I would not be shocked if like we find out years later that this was kind of a troubled production.
yeah.
Because even when you see Ellen Bernstein in the movie, her character Chris, she has a cane, and then later on you see her no cane.
Yeah, I mean, it got. You're exactly right. It got worse and worse. It started out like okay, and then I mean, it was interested, and then it was. I mean, it was the dialogue was wooden through most of it.
You know,
That was bad from the get go, and I'm a big dialogue guy. I'm a big fan of the guys who nail that, and I'm not a fan of the people who don't nail it. It just bothers me when dialogue sounds so unnatural to me in film. But it got worse and worse. And then we were texting her in the movie, and I was saying I was watching now, not good. But I was like, I'll save my thoughts for the pod because at the time I was like, it's bad, but like I probably had it in like the 60 world, but I mean, it just kept going down and down
the
and down.
60.
And
So you would, let me ask you this. So we just did a podcast on Freddy versus Jason. Would you watch this or Freddy versus Jason?
yeah, I mean, probably this. I didn't like Freddy vs. Jason.
Wow.
I ended up on this at a 45.
Jesus
I mean,
Christ,
Freddy
Walker.
versus
Okay, so
Jason
like
is Freddy versus
so
Jason.
much fun. I think the word you're looking for is so much fun, Walker. I believe that that's what you're looking for. No, this movie's not fun at all. It's unfortunate. We were texting through it and everything, or not texting through it, but you were texting me your thoughts. Um, and it's just yeah, it's not good, man. It's not good, and it's disappointing. You know what can you say? It's just disappointing.
Now, I did watch Loki. Did you catch up on Loki?
I did catch up on Loki, man. I listen. I really like the show. I like it a lot so far. Episodes one and two, I think, are fantastic. Episode three is a bit of a step down, just a little bit, but I still really enjoy it. I like where the series seems to be going. You know, Tom Hiddleston and Owen Wilson, their chemistry in this series is really the thing that carries it for me. Honestly, like it's just it's transcendent. Their chemistry is just off the
I
charts.
mean, I love it. I think it's I mean, I'm so sold on it. I agree that one and two were the best, but I think three held up a pretty high bar for me too. I mean, obviously we get the reintroduction of Kang, which I mean we're not going to get in. We don't need to have a conversation every week about Jonathan Majors as a human. We're going to let the world handle that, however it is. But it's pretty much undeniable. He's a talented actor, and he's put out some of
Yeah,
the best performances I've ever seen. So we're just going to talk about this in a vacuum. He's great as Kang. I mean, he's fantastic, and it's shown here.
it's so crazy how each version of Kang that we've seen so far feels so vastly different yet so similar.
You know, yeah, that's a great point. I agree completely, and this one's probably the most unique, right? Because this one's his more human, like prequel Kang, right?
Yeah,
Mister
yeah. This
Timely, is that
is
his name?
yeah. Professor Timely, Doctor Timely, something like that. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm. But I love. I mean, yes, you mentioned Owen Wilson and Tom Hiddleston, perfect. And then I always miss his name up. Ki Hoi Kwan, is that his name
Ki
from
Kwan.
everything? Okay, he perfect. Ouroboros, OB, I love every bit of it. I mean, I
So
wrote down like
funny.
I just think the show is hysterical, and I write down jokes as they come along just because they make me laugh out loud by myself. And like I laughed at OB like tinkering with something in his shop, and then asking him about something else, and him being like, "Would you call this a priority over what I'm like?" No, no, you just keep doing what you're doing. I think that was so funny. I also love when I mean, Mobius is super distraught, and and Loki's like following him through a hallway or whatever, and then Mobius is like, "Where are we going?" And he was like, "I was following you." And Mobius was like, "I was following you." And Loki's like, "Mobius, you were clearly ahead of me the entire time." I just think there's just the way because it's a fairly complicated premise in the show. Like you got to pay attention to it, but the way they exposition is perfect to me. The way they like explain things and how they're happening by each other, acting like it's a complicated, it's just
Well,
perfect.
the show has a great tone to it, and
Mhm.
how it balances the comedy with the drama with the science fiction. It's a world that like it feels very much Marvel, but it's so science fiction fantasy. So far I really that's the thing that sticks out. That's why I love season one so much. It's because yeah, it's this bonkers crazy thing, but really it's a character study on Loki as a person, and um, seeing him. It's crazy to me how in season one they this is a different version of Loki that's been dead, or this is different from the version that we saw in Avengers Infinity War that had earned his herodom, right?
Mhm.
This is one where earning that kind of gets spat up. And it's a different take on Loki, and but still feels very much the same, and Tom Hiddleston is bringing it. And, the relationship between him and Sylvie is really interesting because it's it's I guess they kind of have a thing for each other, but
Mhm.
it's himself, which makes sense because he's a narcissist, so he would be in love with himself.
Yeah. Some of the
But
things too.
I just
Oh, sorry.
no, no, I just really enjoy what they're doing with him as a character so far in this series, and then obviously him getting his moment in episode two where he kind of lets that old Loki out from the first Avengers and everything, where he's very mean
Yeah, it's funny
and
because like
dark and
going,
violent.
they make it. I don't know. I guess their dialogue, their interaction, their chemistry is so relatable that it makes it feel not as otherworldly, even though it's such an otherworldly concept. Something about like just their human esque, just the great performances make them feel like they're your buddies. And
Yeah,
I like forgot Loki was a god for a minute, and then once he like showed like when he corners Brad and does the shadow game, which also a funny line. Like, don't you think it's a little like over the top with the shadow game? Like, it was like, oh yeah, Loki's got. And then I also love that they, like you said, they don't let you forget, what versions of Loki have done in the past. Like because he's so likable that I mean, he just so quickly can become like, let's let him run the adventure. Like he's great. But they do a good job of reminding you of like, them terrorizing New York City and then whatever he's done in the past, which I
killed
think
like
is
80 some people in his first like 24 hours on Earth or whatever.
yeah.
Yeah.
But something about the show just elevates everyone. I mean, Tom Middleton and Ouroboros and Mobius, and they all lift each other up. And even the guy who played Brad, Rafael Casal, is his name. I'm not very familiar with him, but I thought he was great in the show.
Oh yeah, he was terrific. I loved him in episode two.
And I love the like torture device, little box that felt like something out of like a James Cameron or a Denis Villeneuve, like some kind of like cool sci-fi tech that like makes you enjoy it, some kind of creative
Yeah.
thing, the little box they put them in.
Box
So
gets
I'm
smaller,
stoked about the
smaller,
show.
smaller. Yeah. Yeah, I'm really digging it so far. I'm looking forward to seeing where it'll end because the first one, that cliffhanger is pretty massive in what they did and how they introduced the multiverses saga's main villain. And it's funny to me, in Loki season 1 and in Loki season 2, they have made Kang seem more villainous and devious and someone that you should fear more so than Ant-Man Quantumania did.
Yeah, I mean Ant Man. Oh yeah, Ant Man. I,
Yeah.
I thought they wet the bed in terms of Kang.
Yeah, they did
Oh.
completely with that one.
Big release this weekend. We had Killers of the Flower Moon come out.
We did, man. Martin Scorsese bringing film to cinema.
Yes, yes. Get rid of this stupid Superman superhero conversation and get on to real film. Um, I love this movie. I thought this movie was fantastic. I I think top to bottom. I mean, I think it was directed incredibly. I think the story was powerful. It was moving. It was inspiring. It's an undertold story. I'm not very familiar with it myself, but the Osage. I did a little research since then, and it's just a horrific uh, period in history that has been swept under the rug far too much. So I appreciate the movie. I thought the performances, top to bottom, fantastic, very much so. I mean, I was pretty in awe with the movie, and we can get into some more details and stuff, and maybe some things I had against it. But those are my thoughts off the top. What did you think of the movie?
So, we've talked about this, pretty much all year, how this is one of our most anticipated films of the year. And we've been very, very excited about it and very much looking forward to it. Martin Scorsese, his filmography is very rich. It's not just gangster movies. Um, he's very interested in the folly of man and digging into that gray area of people and digging into what makes people tick. His movies are very rich thematically, and this is no different. I think this is a great movie. I think it's a great movie that is bolstered by incredible cinematography, incredible pacing, um, fantastic editing, incredible performances across the board. Leonardo DiCaprio as this dim individual, Ernest, who gets taken advantage of by his uncle, uh, William Hale. It's so interesting to see that dynamic, but it's also infuriating to see it.
Mm-hmm.
But this movie, when you really break it down, the heart of the movie, even though, and I'll get to this later, not the main character of the movie, the main heart of this film is ultimately about greed and it tugs you down into the belly of unorganized crime and how evil men can be. And at the heart of this film is the story of betrayal between Ernest Burkhart and Molly Burkhart. And Molly Burkhart, Lily Gladstone as Molly Burkhart, is simply phenomenal. It is one of, if not my favorite performances of the year. It's so subtle. You can tell just by a look on her face what she's feeling, what she's thinking. It's not a very showy performance, but it's one of those performances that I really love where it allows the audience to really dig in to how a character is feeling without you having to tell. and it's so wonderfully portrayed by Lily Gladstone, and I think she's phenomenal in this. Jesse Plemons is great. It's good to see Brendan Fraser in this. He's not in it for very long, and yeah, I think this movie's fantastic. I have some issues with it,
Mhm.
and we'll get into those. But as a whole, I I I think this movie's really great.
Yeah, so I love. I think I'm going to say the star of the show here is the performances for me. Top to
Yeah,
bottom, I was wildly impressed. So that's a big thing to me. I mean, the performances are so. I mean, obviously it's a big thing. It's what most people care. But it good performances elevate a film so much for me that I can just become like enamored. You said a great word, dim, for Ernest Burkhart. It's a great way to describe his character. You know, they Leonardo DiCaprio. I mean, this is gonna be a hot take. I know everyone's gonna hate this take. I'm giving him the nod over Cillian Murphy. I think he he. I thought he crushed it. I thought he was able to portray this like in between, like childish. Does he know what he's doing? Does he convince himself he doesn't know what he's doing? Like he able to, like you mentioned, like find the
and
gray inside of.
that is the genius of his performance, and me shaking my head, being funny about Cillian Murphy versus Leonardo DiCaprio
Yeah.
for acting this year. It's not to take away from how great Leo is in this movie, and
Yeah.
it's his performance is terrific. That scene, like I said earlier, all these movies and TV shows that we're going to be talking about right here, it's spoilers, but that scene where his daughter dies and he's in the jail cell, oh my god, incredible stuff. And then also the scene where he's being interrogated. Easier
Yeah.
to sit down. Yeah, but you're standing.
So yeah, and Robert De Niro, he plays this manipulative. I mean, he's brilliant in the movie too. Jesse Plemons, I love seeing him on screen every time I can.
Oh, he's
He,
awesome.
I don't know if I want him to work more or I want him to keep doing exactly what he's doing because he. I mean, I know he's top billed a couple times, but a lot of the times he's these characters that kind of introduce themselves and give you a little Jesse Plemons and then check out. And I mean, he's fantastic. I want to see him every time he comes off the screen. I want to see more of him. I think he's been fantastic since Breaking Bad and Power of the Dog. I mean, he's just great in everything he does. Love it. And I also love these little bit characters are adding, just like
Don't
Brendan
forget
Fraser.
game night. Don't
Oh
forget
yeah,
game night.
fantastic. Brendan Fraser. He got a reaction in the theater when he came on pretty powerfully when he was like, "Oh my client" and stuff.
Yeah.
John Lithgow. I thought he nailed his part.
Oh, yeah, he was good too.
But you are right. The star of this show is Lily Gladstone. Her performance, she's going to explode, or she needs to.
She absolutely needs to. Like, because the thing is, she commands the screen. Like, you're like, at least when I'm watching Leonardo DiCaprio in a movie, it's very rare that my eyes are going to like a different performer. There's a couple of cases like Kate Winslet, Titanic. You have Brad Pitt's Academy Award winning performance in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which they're both amazing in, where my eyes are kind of torn. But here, her presence just overpowers Leo. She is That's very rare for an actor to do.
Yeah, and she shows so much range too from the beginning where she's listening and observing and taking in Leo and thinking, and she's still faced and calculated and calm and somehow still tells us exactly what she's thinking and feeling in this way that we're just drawn to immense pain and torture towards the end. When she's sick and broken and has gone through more pain than any human being should ever endure,
No.
and to nail both of those with just absolutely amazing performance, and she should blow up. She deserves to blow up. She's fantastic. Now, I have some issues with the book, but my issues are also going to be a hot take. Maybe they're not going to be a hot take to the general public, but the movie people, they're going to look at me like, man, I think this movie's intentionally paced pretty slowly. And I've even read into
Yeah,
like some of his inspiration, like Midsummer and some other things that were these slow burns. And he nails it, and it works for the story. And I'm not saying I have a lot that he can cut out. It's 3.5 hours long, and it feels at
with
least
previews,
three
it's
and a half
4.
hours long.
Yeah, there. I will. Here's the thing. I do think this movie, for what it's attempting to do and how it's attempting to make you feel this overwhelming sense of dread and pain and sorrow for everything that's going on, I think it's incredibly well done. However, it does feel long, even though I think that that's intentional. Doesn't mean that, you know, I watch another 4 hour movie. Well, this isn't 4 hours, but like Zack Snyder's Justice League, a movie I really love, it feels like 2 hours. This feels every bit of 3.5 hours.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I agree this feels longer than Justice League. I also think Justice League is long too, but I'm a long movie guy as well. I like
I am too.
other Scorsese movies, Wolf of Wall Street, Goodfellas, the movies that push that 245 mark that are, he's able to have that much more character development or that much like of a satisfying resolution because Mark Scorsese is kind of famous for having 30 minutes wrapping up the after story after the climax, and like really like tying together his story, and I typically love it. I loved it in Departed. I mean, I know the very last second of Departed is divisive, but it's fine with me.
I
With
don't.
the rat,
That doesn't bother me. Yeah, that
yeah,
doesn't
it doesn't
bother
bother
me.
me. But it's just, and maybe you're right, and that's the best answer you could give me too. That's the answer that's the most satisfying to me is that like it's intentionally long and painful, and it puts you through it. But it just is, and I get. I mean, I get that like when you criticize, when you talk about movies, and you talk about it's too long. I mean, that's just like a lame answer, but there's
Well,
got
it's
to
a
be some
subjective
line.
thing, you know.
But like, what if the movie was 9 hours long? I mean, but it was paced perfectly. I mean, would that be too long? I mean, like it's like where
That's
is
it.
that line?
Okay, so like that's it's an extreme example.
I
Like
know, but that's kind of
not
my.
nine
That's just
hours
I'm just trying to
long.
prove like. But 4 hours we're starting to creep into extreme. I
But
mean, it's
the thing
long.
is, if it works, if it feels well paced, and if it works, then it works.
I know,
You
I
know,
know.
like, but if it feels long and it doesn't feel well paced and it feels haphazard, it feels a little too long, and that's when it doesn't work. And you should have cut some corners and stuff like that. Not cut corners, but like cut stuff out. I don't want to say cut corners, but cut stuff out.
Yeah, sometimes you got to get a video down under 60 seconds. It's not easy. You gotta you gotta trim some stuff.
Gotta
Plus
trim
the
the
Final
fat,
Cut Pro.
man.
Now, the hardest part about saying this is I did like the movie. I loved the movie. I thought the movie was excellent. My scores are going to be high, and I think it was paced properly. And I don't know
Mhm.
what to cut. I just can't. I have to say it was long. It felt long. My back was hot. It took a long time.
Yeah, I
And,
feel you because my movie started at 1 o'clock when I saw it, and it ended. I was at home at 5.
mhm.
That's my whole afternoon gone.
Yeah.
And then, to be fair, 20 minutes of previews, and then there was a 5 minute delay because the screen went blank, and they had to go in and fix it, and it only took about 5 minutes, but still, like, it's my afternoon, man. It's gone.
Yeah. Now, overall, again, I performances loved it from top to bottom. Direction fantastic. Pacing appropriate. I'll say cinematography amazing. The score incredible, haunting,
The
and the
drum beat.
story. The story is devastating. It's so torturous. You've said that. That's a great word. And somehow kind of hilarious. My theater laughed out loud about 15 times during the movie. They're like
There's
somehow they
something.
sprinkled humor in.
It's because of the dimness of Leo's character in the movie. Sometime where you're like, man, I know people like this. Like, it's, yeah. I think, if we're sticking on the negatives, I have two things. Talking about length, I wouldn't cut anything out of this movie. I might would add to this movie, and that is I wanted more of the love story at the beginning between Ernest and between Molly, because it happens very quickly before things start to take a turn. And I would have loved to have spent more time with them falling in love, you
Yeah.
know? And because that, again, that's the crux of the movie, is it asks the question, if you truly love someone so much, how can you do so many awful things to them? And if you do these awful things to them, is it really love? My answer to that is no, it's not. If you love someone, you don't do this stuff to them at all. None of the things that Ernest does to Molly in this
The
movie
deal
is
breaker.
is yeah, poison someone is that's for their money is a deal breaker. I'm sorry, that's not true love. That thought would not cross my mind. But my biggest issue, it's not even an issue with the movie. You, again, like I said with The Exorcist, you have to judge a movie based off of what it gives you, and based off of what this movie gives me, it is a great movie. That said, if you read the book, the perspective is from the FBI. It's from the perspective of the FBI, and a lot in the original drafts of this movie, can't speak. Martin Scorsese has talked about how a lot was put into trying to find a heart into this film and trying to tell it from the Osage point of view, right? And so
Mhm.
to do that, they told it from Ernest's point of view, who's not Osage, because that's whose point of view this movie's from. It's not from the Osage point of view. Again, this movie works as like a three-headed beast where you have Lily Gladstone, Robert De Niro, and Leonardo DiCaprio. But the
Yeah.
movie is from Leo's perspective. It is not from Lily Gladstone's Molly's perspective. And in my opinion, if you wanted to tell the story of the Osage, this movie should have been from her perspective the entire movie. The entire movie, it should have been from her perspective. And if you're, thing about that is well, Martin Scorsese is a white man. It would be a little hard for him to tell a point of view from an Osage person, and I completely understand that. And if that's the case, why not hire an Osage director? You're the greatest, one of the greatest filmmakers of all time. You have a lot of clout. Why not, get an Osage director and give them a platform to tell their story?
Yeah, I can
Why
see
not?
that. That's great. Some great points. I think that's an astute observation.
That's not to take away from the movie itself. That's just an opinion that I had. Is throughout the film, I found myself wanting to see more from her, from Molly's point of view. I I don't hate it. I don't hate the movie. And again, I think the movie's great. And judging it based off of what the movie gives me, it's a great movie. However, those thoughts did creep into my mind of, well, if you really wanted to tell it from the Osage point of view, then it should have been from hers the entire time.
Sure. I mean, yeah, I could see that being. That's a great point. What'd you think of the ending? The like the epilogue.
So here's the thing. Here's the thing. I think if the people who complain about the rat, man, they're gonna have a field day with this one. Excuse me. This is a lot. I liked it. I got the point of it. I get why he did it. It's very creative. Usually, when a movie ends, you just get the title cards. But
Yeah, I've
I
heard it's divisive, but I liked it too.
I liked
I
it.
thought
I
it was
liked it. I
kind of
got
creative. I thought it was creative in a different way to do it, less boring. It felt more heartfelt. He also a lot of it hinged on his delivery, and I think he delivered it well.
yes, he
I
did.
think he was intentional. He was sincere. He was genuine. He was matter of fact. He was not dramatic about it at all. It was very well delivered, I thought, and that was a part of it. But I thought it was an interesting because there was parts I like kind of like it took me a second to like kind of get what was going on. It kind of reminded me of Asteroid City, the Wes Anderson movie, because it's kind of about a you hadn't seen that, have you? All right.
No, I still haven't seen it. Yeah.
It's about like a play, and within a television special talking about the making of a play within like a news. Like there's a bunch of like withins, and and there's almost like a comedic exaggeration of like mid 50s like television special. And Bryan Cranston's the host, and he kind of has like a lean towards the camera Twilight. So I don't know. It was just kind of.
Yeah.
It took me a second to kind of
Like that.
catch
It's
up
not
with what was
true.
going
It's false. It's fiction. That guy.
on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I enjoyed it. I liked the movie overall. I give it high. I haven't settled on. I mean, it's a must see for me. I mean, that's.
Yeah,
I
it's a
mean,
must see for me too. I don't think it ranks as my favorite movie of the year so far. I still think that is I would say a clear place for Oppenheimer for me at number
sure.
one. But this is up there for me. This year
Yeah,
has
it's
actually had a lot of great movies. So
yeah, it really has. It's not my favorite of the year either. It's hard to not compare it to Oppenheimer. They're such different movies, but they are the big director, big releases with big performances, and they're both long, and they're the ones that I've been looking forward to as a movie fan all year the
yeah,
most.
same.
So it's hard to not compare them. And also, I imagine they're both going to be in a lot of talk come Oscar season. I already said what I thought about Leo. I'm giving it a must. I mean, if I rate it out of 100, it's gonna be in the 90s. It's gonna be in the low 90s probably, but somewhere 91, 92, somewhere in that range. I liked it a
We're kind
lot.
of
My
on the
favorite.
same ballpark here then. Mine would be
Yeah,
around 90, 91, 92.
yeah. But you got anything else?
That is it, man. Like I said, some of this episode has felt a little bit like deja vu.
Yeah. We appreciate everyone waiting a day for this. I mean, this conversation just took forever. We took a weird pause in the middle, but fortunately, we just have a little bit of a longer beard and a little bit more of a wrinkled shirt. But we're all set. But
My hair
I
is
think
falling in a different place.
continuity Wizard of Oz, Dorothy. That does it for this week. Thank you all again for listening. If you're hearing this on Spotify or Apple Podcast, thank you for watching us. If you're catching this on YouTube, please be sure to subscribe, like, let us know. Tell us in the comments, what did you think of Killers of the Flower Moon, Loki, Exorcist Believer, The Walking Dead? Just let us know. But with that said, this is Ben and Walker, and we'll see you next time.
Bye bye.